Haven't been charged, but maybe something feels off? Do you think you should get a lawyer? Getting one could save your future. Hi everyone, Attorney John McPeak with Virtuoso Criminal and DUI Lawyers. Today I'm going to talk about the practice of pre-filing or investigation stage representation. This is a situation where somebody has not been officially charged with a crime, but they have reason to believe that they might be charged with a crime very soon. And so it might make sense for them to lawyer up, as we say, much earlier rather than later. Now, the great many of our clients are usually not in this stage. Most of our clients have active cases going on in the courts. And in fact, many of our clients don't have any choice but to act that way because, well, they've been arrested and then charged immediately thereafter, and then we're meeting them very, very soon after that, and we know there is going to be an actual case in the court. But there are situations where somebody gets charged only after a very long and dragged out investigation. Early on, somebody might start feeling, I like to say, they start noticing the symptoms of a pending criminal investigation. For example, police contact, calls from a detective, or maybe being named in a report. By keeping one's ear to the ground, they might learn that they're being named or identified in some sort of official investigation into something. Maybe it could be a really nasty car accident, for example, that maybe resulted in injuries or severe property damage, and my client knows they might be identified as a responsible party. Maybe they've learned about that because there's already some DMV proceedings going on, and therefore they know that law enforcement will start meddling with them soon if they haven't already. Maybe in that situation, they've even gotten a card with an official California Highway Patrol logo, or from any law enforcement entity that says that they're investigating the collision. Maybe my client is aware that a jilted former partner is going to accuse them of domestic violence or maybe a very serious sexual offense that we also represent on. These are cases that might come to be after a longer investigation and not, for example, a heat of the moment where somebody is allegedly caught very soon after the alleged conduct and arrested. In a DUI case, for example, it's often the case where somebody is just pulled over, they're doing field sobriety tests, they're arrested on the scene. There's no like pre-filing or investigation stage there usually. This video really applies to situations where you're noticing that you might be the target of an ongoing investigation. You're concerned that maybe a case might happen. You might catch a case real soon. Now, why does it make sense to hire an attorney earlier? Well, prosecutors make filing decisions fast, often only based on the police report. Now, it's fast in one way in that they might make it boom at the drop of a hat, but it may come after a long, dragged out, and sometimes indeterminate period of investigation by the prosecutor's office and other investigative agencies. You may not want your story left out from the prosecutor's charging decision. At the same time, you might really want your story to be left out. You want to make sure that law enforcement doesn't play any tricks to gather any statements or admissions by you in the charging decision. You don't want, for example, the police to sneak up on you and, get you interviewed without having a lawyer present. If you have a lawyer with you already, someone can actually call law enforcement and say, hey, just so you know, John Doe or Jane Doe is represented by us, and therefore any interviews that you have for them have to go through us first. Otherwise, they're violating the Fifth and Sixth Amendment and also very serious ethical restraints on prosecuting agencies. Having a lawyer already is sort of a way to enforce those rules and to enforce the fact that prosecutors and law enforcement agencies play by the right rules and they don't try to interview you without the assistance of counsel. That's one of the main ways where having a lawyer can help early, because it acts as a sort of bulwark or a barrier between you and law enforcement, so that you know that law enforcement doesn't try to interview you ahead of time without your lawyer knowing it. Your lawyer can also keep you up to speed on the various types of strategies that law enforcement might try to do to get a statement without you knowing it. I mentioned sex offenses earlier. One common investigative strategy is called the pretext call, where law enforcement may set up a prearranged phone call with you and with the alleged victim or somebody close to them, and it's recorded on the other side of the line. So they don't need a warrant to get your recorded statement in that scenario. Working with a lawyer ahead of time helps you prepare for that possibility and keeps you wary about it so you don't get tricked or into making admissions you don't otherwise want to make. And it also may help in situations where you want your side of the story told. It's very common that prosecutors will make their filing decision without listening to anything from the outside world. And that's what I tell to anybody who's interested in hiring us at this stage. It's very, very rare, unfortunately, that any lawyer can, speak to a prosecuting office, to a DA's office ahead of time and tell their story in a way that actually makes the charges not get filed. But every once in a while, it can happen. And so if there is a way to hire a lawyer to get early contact with the prosecutors before they file charges, that might actually make or break the difference in terms of whether charges do get filed or not. In essence, if you think you're being investigated and you think you can hold out until charges do get filed and then you hire counsel, by all means, that might be some way you wish to go about it. But there are several benefits to having counsel earlier. There is a defensive benefit to making sure that you don't get interviewed by law enforcement without counsel's assistance, and also an offensive benefit in making sure that you have somebody to advocate for you, maybe not formally inside a courtroom, but maybe through conversations with the DA and with law enforcement ahead of time, somebody to advocate for you to at least try to tell your story ahead of time, and it may or may not affect the charging decision. Thanks, and stay safe out there.